Morning, everybody. My name's Sean Compton. I'm the co-owner and lead instructor for ACTMS, Alamo City Tactical Medical Solutions. We intend to do an entire kind of series on tiered class 8, kind of how to pack medically from IFAC forward. I was asked to do just a short kind of video on a belly bag or a chest pouch, and so thought I'd just throw this up and let you guys be the judge as far as, was it of worth to you, and I hope it is. Just a little bit about myself, so I won't repeat this every time we talk. 30 years in the Army, almost all of it on the soft side of the house. I'm currently still teaching Army folks prior to deployment. So I've been doing this a couple of days, and so that'll be kind of where this is coming from. Okay, so and obviously in the military, this doesn't really affect. It's not the same, obviously, for law enforcement, but for the military, the IFAC that they're issued, which now is known as the JFAC, is a relatively standard loadout. In soft community, they may change the contents to some degree, but the IFAC itself, or JFAC, is a relatively standard fare. In the law enforcement community, getting those folks to put something else on their duty belt that's a battle in and of itself. And the actual IFAC that they select, or whatever medical gear that they select, would vary from department to department. So I'm not laying down, hey, this is the way you should do anything specifically. I'm just giving you some ideas, and this is a couple of days down the road, and seeing a fair amount of casualties, both at point of injury and then role one, or at a battalion aid station level. Okay, so most of my experience is point of injury, and so that's kind of how I'm going to address this subject matter. So the obviously any medical endeavor that we're going to do is going to start off of is going to originate at the IFAC or the JFAC. Now, beyond that, so I'm not going to really address that. Later, I may do a civilian kind of our version of what we think that should look like for law enforcement, but for the military, like I said, that's standard fare. The only thing that the medical people that are involved, the medical section for a specific unit, for example, the one thing that they can become involved as far as the JFAC is where exactly does that reside on your equipment or your armor, etc. And so there is something to be said for standardizing that, and most units do that. But if you think you don't have a say, you do have a say. Okay, and it needs to be in an area, and it needs to be universal or straight across for everybody. There shouldn't be any artistic license taken with placement of an IFAC, but we need to be able to find that in the dark without any looking around and cussing. Okay, so if it were my pick, most of your shooters are going to center load their basic load right up front, right on their center panel. Okay, so they're a little. The majority of that 210 round basic loadout is going to be sitting right here. So if it were me picking, I would put the JFAC just left, because most shooters are right-handed. I put the JFAC just left of that center panel. Then you have two individual tourniquet pouches for that accompany the JFAC. So if it were me, again, I'd probably put the one external tourniquet pouch on the left shoulder, above your basic load, and put the other one just right of the center panel. That's how I would do it. I try to keep for most people. I know we got lefties out there. I get it. And if you want to let them have a switch and do the exact opposite, that's totally in your purview. But I like, for most of those shooters, try to keep the right side relatively clear. You don't want to foul their draw stroke for their pistol and or rifle, which is going to be towed over here. So I don't like a lot of stuff over here. That's just me. But that's where, medicine, quote unquote, is going to start. Now beyond that, if it were me, I would probably add a tourniquet in either assault or pocket. Okay, if you want to have those tabbed out where the red tip, if you're using like for example a Gen 7 cat tourniquet, you want to have that red tip kind of just pointed just outside the zipper, and maybe put a date on that thing. That's okay too. But that would put if you do it that way, you got 4 tourniquets per person out there. So you're layering Class 8 out there on the troops. Now in the SOF community, they're going to add to that. So likely in the SOF community, they're probably going to put an additional battle pack or something akin to that. In their 36-hour bag, certainly in their rucksack, okay? So they can push out. They're going to be in an austere environment. The medic cannot be expected to carry, 500 pounds of lightweight medical gear, okay? So that's got to be layered out. Plus, in a SOF community, those folks are going to be separated to some degree and may not have the medic in tow. Equals they got to, all that prolonged field care everybody wants to talk about, they may need to be executing that out there away from until they can get them out, okay? So, but today's subject is, I went that to kind of give you a lead in, because I'm really not going to talk a lot, about an IFAC until a future class when we talk about, the civilian kind of version of it. I would say that for the law enforcement, my recommendation would be at least have a tourniquet on your duty belt, at least that. Okay, it's going to be hard to convince, cops, law enforcement, or any other first responders to, when they're carrying 15 to 20 pounds of crap on their duty belt to add another thing. There's not enough real estate for that. Plus they got to sit in a vehicle or cruiser, and so that just complicates everything, and it's painful, right? So even with a battle belt, which I'll kind of address just here in a second. But today's subject is about belly pouches or chest pouches. Now this is a NAR number 4 chest pouch. It's my favorite. I've been using these things for years, and I love this bag. There's a lot of other companies out there that make quality bags, so I'm not getting any kickbacks from NAR. So for the internet trolls out there. So or don't be calling me a fanboy. Combat Medical Systems makes good bags. There's a lot of good bag makers out there, and if you've got those and that's what your unit bought, then you're welcome to use it. The concept is the same. It doesn't really matter what type of. The reason I like this though is it just makes sense to me. Okay, and it makes so much sense to me that I actually use this across a lot of other systems, and there's a reason for that. Most of the time, if you're using something like this, you're up against it, right? So you're in a bad place, likely going to be to some degree in sympathetic nervous system overload. Equals you need to be able to get into that thing and access it, gloved hands, just coming off of a fight or still in it, and be able to get in there and find that stuff without any confusion, okay? And it kind of disallows you to overpack, and I'm not a big fan of overpacking 8 bags or anything else. I mean, put the appropriate stuff in there and then just call it a day. Because if you overpack this thing to where it's right at tensile, as soon as you breach that zipper, man, that thing, you're going to have an 8-bag grenade go off out there, or in this case, a little chest bag. So now you can kind of see the cube and kind of size on this thing, right? So obviously, think of a chest pouch as about 2 times IFAC contents. Okay, IFAC is a great tool. It's saved a lot of lives. I'm a big fan. When I was a young soldier, my first aid kit, quote unquote, before I became a medic, was a little compass pouch with a dry rod and freaking little dressing stuck in there, and that was my thing. Any tourniquets were improvised. We made them ourselves and that kind of thing. So there wasn't a lot of layered Class 8 out there for soldiers. And I certainly didn't have this bag. Even when I was a medic, I had things that I used similar to this, but this is a nice tool, and I use it a lot. As far as who uses this, obviously this is not really a first responder bag unless you've got. The only way I would maybe add something like this is to. If you had a very small patrol that didn't have a medic in tow, certainly, everybody's going to have an IFAC, JFAC, but that you might add this to kind of extend you just a little bit, okay? So anyway, without further ado, you can kind of see the size, and I'll kind of do the layout, and I'll talk about contents. Before I do that, though, we should probably talk about where exactly this would be located. Okay, now as a medic, you're a little bit different than the average bear, right? You're not a shooter proper. Okay, now do you carry a long gun? Well, you should be, and if you're not, you're wrong. Okay, and a short gun. Okay, so you're going to be awful lonely out there if you're trying to, carry a pistol as far as just a defensive weapon because you're a medic. When them bad guys are out there, you're gonna be trying to snuggle up by somebody who's got a long gun. Okay, so you're gonna need to displace your equipment a little bit, and this is kind of a, it's not a huge thing, but it obviously is going to change the kind of dynamic of your cummerbund and where things lay out. This is just a cut down plate carrier, and so I'm not going to talk plate carriers and what you got on them. We got a lot of people out there that got a lot of. I don't have any of my ammo on here. I don't have my knife on here. Ain't got anything on here. Just a couple things still on. I do have my one of my cutters, and I got scissors down in there. I have one tourniquet out of the package here. But my point with this is just to show that most certainly instead of having my long gun magazines, short gun magazines, radio pouches and stuff, I could displace that, put it on my battle belt, and then put the my chest pouch up front. Okay, so that's an option. Now some folks would resist that because they don't feel like they can get down the prone if need be. In my experience, generally, if you need to get in the prone, you can make that happen one way or the other, right? So generally, you can lay over to the side, pull this up under, flip this up underneath your chin, and get your gun, in a good position to get after it. Okay, so but that is an option to you but you're going to have this equipment here. Obviously, has to be pushed to a different location, left or right. And I understand, just like we were talking about with the cops, when they're duty belts, but this is a cut down plate carrier, and I do have a cummerbund. I don't have any soft armor in this one, just got plates 4 1/2. But obviously you have a limited amount of space. I don't like a lot of stuff on the side. I like to be kind of slick. That's just me. If you're roping or doing anything like that and gun stuff, I don't like a lot of stuff on the sides. I think that's problematic. But anyway, so it can either go here, or you can place it on here. So in this case, I got my pistol loaded, right? And I've got my chest pouch. In this case, I've got it loaded on the left side of my battle belt. Okay, so that's an option to you. The one thing that I would say is, I'm not a big fan for drop leg things that are way down. So it would be I would not ever, suspend this down on my leg. I don't like stuff like that. And the way you're going to open it, you're probably going to dump all your contents if the bag that you're using is not baffled. The other thing is on this one, the one thing that I did do that's different before we get into contents here is these bags have some rivets right here on all 4 corners, and obviously they've got the straps to put them into Molly or Pal's webbing, so we can do it that way. And in this case, it is done like that. But the one thing that that you might consider doing is hard tacking down that rivet, because if you need to open this thing up with one hand, if that bag is able to, if it can swing forward a little bit, it'll be difficult for you to do that with one hand. So you might consider doing that. All right. So with that thought, let's talk about content. So in this case, what we have here is 2 tourniquets up front, and these 2 pouches right here. We've got Gen 7s right here. They're out of the package, out of cellophane. They remain in the same exact configuration they came in the cellophane, so they're appropriate for a one-hand application on yourself if you need to, and or pull them things out and you know how they're supposed to go. This bag, like a lot of bags that are created for the soft community, it always has Fast Texas over zippers. That's obvious for a burst thing, or in a situation where you just kind of overpacked or over torqued your zipper. These zippers are pretty good zippers, to be honest with you. And but that buckle is always on there. Now if that becomes problematic with, and you keep fouling yourself on it, let's cut the thing off and burn it. I mean, you don't have to leave that on if you're not, you don't have that need to have that on there, but it is on there. But I would readily admit sometimes it can get a little problematic. Now these zippers here, they come with a short little thing of 550 with an overhand knot. I just extended that out and put some shrink tubing on here, some of the 3-to-1. It's got some adhesive in the center of it, just kind of heated that up a little bit. So all that really does, I mean, you could do it with zip, I put zip ties on zippers to extend them. All you're really doing there is giving yourself a little bit more positive purchase with gloved hands at night. Sometimes it's hard to kind of find those little bitty 550 zipper pulls. So I like to do that. I do that on most things. There's other ways of doing it. I've used cut PVC to be able to positively kind of index where that thing is. And so that's a way of doing it. All right, so let's look in the inside contents. All right, so the way this thing, these are the loose leaf things that are in the center of the bag. So I got 3-inch tape. If you wanted 2-inch, you certainly could do that. A pair of gloves, a couple of hyphen, vented chest seals. That's kind of the current pick out there, at least as far as the Army goes. Good seals, right? But they're sitting in there loose leaf like that. Okay, and then the way this bag, it has some, these are not kind of, adjustable inside the bag. So that's the one thing that, if you want something that's a little bit more, you can change the landscape, you're going to have to go to a different thing. But most of these bags of this size, they're going to come kind of with some type of, when there was a plan. Now for me, this works out well because prior to the, and even with this, I've been using what I refer to as a battle pack kind of system for years. Okay, and when we talk about MASCAL and how to pack and get ready for that, you'll see that. If I'm issuing medical equipment to team guys, it'll be in a battle pack kind of setup. So it'll be a gallon Ziploc bag. It'll have the exact same items that are in this bag right here. All this stuff will be in 1 gallon Ziploc bag, and I'll pack freaking 100 in it. If I got enough equipment to support it, I'll pack 100 of them. Okay, so and those. Because here's the thing, the equipment that resides in here, and we will talk about each one of these items, but the equipment that resides in here, I can take care of just about most trauma that I'm going to run into, short of meds, advanced procedures, and splinting and fluids. I can take care of most other things. Okay, so it's a dense pack of equipment that's actually usable, and it's easy to access and get to. Okay, so on the left right here, I've got 2 6-inch ace wraps. Now, obviously, I'm a retired guy of 30 years. All of it was soft side of the house, and so I learned to stop hemorrhage with 6-inch ace wraps and Kerlix. That's what we had. There was no tourniquet saturation across the battlefield. There was no such animal. If I put a tourniquet on in my younger years, if I put a tourniquet on somebody, some ER doc or surgeon would crucify me on the tree of woe. Okay, so I can stop most bleeding with a 6-inch ace wrap and Kerlix, and done it for years. So to me, this is a better tool than an ETB or some type of battle dressing. Okay, which a lot of those also employ an elastic, bandage there. So it's kind of your choice. If you'd rather one or both of these be ETBs, then you're certainly welcome to do it. Don't throw the baby out the bathwater is the point here, right? But I can do a lot more things with those 2 6-inch ace wraps than ETBs, as far as I'm concerned. Over here, if you can look and see how these are laid out, I've got combat gauze and compressed Kerlix, combat gauze, and compressed Kerlix. So I've got 2 of those. I've got 2 needles, 2 14 gauge, 3.5 or 3 1/4, excuse me. I've got a Sharpie marker. I've got a nasal trumpet. Now that's out of the package, but he'll be all right. Jaco ain't out here. And and I don't carry, how some of those nasal trumpets They'll have a little Surgilube thing stapled to the package. I'm not carrying no Surgilube in no bag. That's going to explode and get all over everything. Sharpie marker, but I got Sharpie markers all over everything. So I always have Sharpie markers, right? So I've got 2 cravats. I know that's old school. People are like, cravat? What'd you do with a cravat? Okay, well, them have been around since time immemorial, and they work pretty good for a whole lot of stuff. So I would probably carry those. But if you don't like them, that's cool. And then a TC3 card. Now, the TC3 card, if it's my guys, they're going to come with it. They're in their JFAC, they've got a TC3 card with it, the top portion of it already filled out, but you don't necessarily get to pick who you're going to treat downrange. So the TC3 card's in there. It would be nice to capture some data on the guy. So in total, again, as far as review and how are we, what is all this going to do for us? For massive hemorrhage, short of junctional tourniquets, you've got 2 tourniquets up there. Like I said, they're going to have if they're in the military, they're going to have tourniquets on in their JFAC. Hopefully, you may have layered a couple in into their Salter pockets. As far as airway, I don't have an advanced airway in here, but if you see the size cube, then if you wish, if you're potentially, doing, you're dismounted, it wouldn't be too big of a step to drop a Crike set in there. I know this didn't come in the package, but that's a clean procedure. It's not a sterile procedure. I add things to the way that kit comes. This is a NAR Crike kit, and if you're looking close, you can see that I got some Kellys in there and a bougie, even though that kit's going to come with a bougie here pretty quickly. But I've added some things to it and kind of redressed it. But you're certainly able to put that up in there, right? So that's airway. You've got as far as your respirations, you've got 2 high vents right here, and then we got 2 needles. All right, and then for the rest of your packing and circulation kind of stuff, you've obviously seen the bleeding kits, and that would obviously address any junctional wounds or anything else you needed to do. Okay, now that's kind of the equipment. And when would you potentially be putting this in play? Well, obviously, here's the thing. This is an aid bag, relatively common standard, for medics out there. We, didn't take, but that first trip in the 82nd, and some other folks went in there with a Stomp 2, which wasn't a bad bag for a truck, but a little bit big when you're at 10,000 feet and stomping up and down. So they got cured of that, right? So they kind of downsized. Now just remember though that an aid bag this size, and later we'll talk about what I got in this aid bag. Now I'm not going to do it on this one, but that's 1 casualty. Okay, now I can do about 1 casualty short, like I said, of fluids, advanced skills, medications and splints. Short of those things I can do out of this, right? But this really is about 1 casualty worth of stuff, maybe 1.5, we'll say that. Okay, so but here's the point. I don't want to get into that. Never breach a zipper till you get in tactical field care, and even in tactical field care, I don't want to get into it immediately. So, this, obviously there's a lot of things in here that we are not going to use in care under fire, right? But them tourniquets we most certainly can. Obviously we would use theirs first if they were available, but you don't know who you're working with and certainly if you're working on Indig, they ain't going to have this stuff on them that you told them to put on, and they should do to them. They're not even going to have it on them. So, when you get up there, you need to be able to try to work short of getting it. And the other thing is, if I respond, I get out of the truck and I'm coming forward to a care under fire type of setting, I'm not going to dismount that A-bag necessarily. Now, if I'm already outside of a truck and we're doing a cordon search or whatever we're doing out there, just dilly-dallying about, I might have that A-bag with, and so I'm responding with the A-bag on me. But when you get to care under fire, we're not getting in that A-bag. That's not going to happen, okay? So, I want to work off of him, and I want to work off of, this is kind of that bridge to the aid bag. So you want to resist getting in here, because that thing, once you open it up, man, now we got a problem. Now we got stuff everywhere. Even this, you just need to stay relatively Spartan, but this will extend this considerably, okay? So this is a really, really good tool. I'm a huge advocate of it, And I think you'd be better served. And and then where you put it on your kid, it's up to you, man. You do whatever you like to do. I will show you one interesting point, though. This is a bag of mine, so it's just one. Again, the zipper thing here, right? That we already talked about. I'm not going to get into the bag other than to show you this, because and this will get some of the the folks that watch this. You're going to have some people go, "Oh my God!" Right? So look what he did. What did he do? Right? So these come. Here's the thing. The 8 bags, like a lot of bags, Mystery Ranch or whatever, they, you've got engineers in there that get paid a lot of money to, maximize space and compartmentability. And so what they do is over-engineer crap, and then you get into this bag because you don't work in it all the time. If you don't work in it, that would be a little word of advice on any of these bags. You need to get in there and figure out what's in it. So when it's go time, you ain't sitting there in the dark and jerk up. That's where a lot of the 8-bag grenade happens, is they grab their stuff because they can't find anything because they got it in the 1,400 freaking small pockets and crap in here, right? So a lot of people like that kind of thing. I'm going to have all my bleeding kits in here and all my, okay, dude, whatever. But if you're looking at this, and I'm not going to dig in and show you all the stuff. I got all fluids and stuff in here. Got a junction turning there, blah, blah, blah. All right, but right here in the very top, I've got the same goddamn bag right there. It's sitting right there. Now, why not do that, right? You're like, well, why would you do that? Why would you have multiple bleeding kits and then airway stuff, and all, because it comes with all these little bags. Okay, well, you can't never find anything in all them bags. So, but this right here, and in this case, a little different than over here. I've got this locked down onto a panel that's removable from the Velcro, so I can pull that whole thing out and replace it easily. Okay, so, but whenever I reach this zipper, I can reach in there. I know where them tourniquets are. I know where everything is in there, right? So if I've exhausted this, I'm coming in there for a second. So I got advanced airway and other things, but the point here is that it's the same exact thing. I don't have to look for things, and it's not ever a different look, right? So that's a way of doing it. Just a thought. The other thing, since I've got this open, I would say, I did tell you that if you wish to add something to this bag, you certainly could throw, the medic could throw, or tactical practitioner could throw a Crike set in there. But another thing you might consider doing, because it's medic centric and it gives you a lot of information for not a lot of work, is a tethered on a retention lanyard pulse ox is certainly of worth right there. Okay, so now some people would say, well, now you're getting into too much stuff, Sean, but that is a lot of information for not a lot of work. Okay, but if I was going to do that, it most certainly would be on a retention. Now, obviously, I've modified the clip, I cut that thing off, and then I had to cut down this on that, and blah blah blah. Okay, but that gives me some more information. So I think that's about it for the chest pouch or belly bag. If you have any questions about it, certainly post, and we'll try to answer it for you. And thanks for your attention. We'll see you down the road.